Hey guys, welcome back for another tutorial. And this one's going to be on ThinkorSwim on tweaking the active trader window. Recently, I had a student of mine who reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm having a hard time scaling out of my trades, right? ThinkorSwim is not the most intuitive software, nor does it make scaling out of your trades very easy." Here, let me show you what I'm talking about real quick. Let me pull it up. Here we go. All right, so you see right now I have this position open in JNUC, right? Where, you know, I'm long 10,000 shares, right? And um, I have what I've done is I've actually gone through and I've taken 1,000 shares and I've set different target areas for each of these, right? So again, you can see my average price is 301, right? So right now I'm up 20 27,000, right? So which is cool, right? Awesome. But again, for ThinkorSwim, it is not the most intuitive software to get into a trade or to set a stop and things like that. If you just want to do a basic single, you just want to set a stop, right? You can go to the target with bracket, untick the target, just leave the your stop enabled, and then you can set your stop any way you want. The other thing that I like to do, right, is like I said, I like to scale out a trade. Now I've changed over to Medved Trader, where Medved Trader, for those that are familiar with it, or maybe who's not familiar with it, it has a little button that has it's a little half button, right? So let's say I take 1,000 shares in a trade. And let's say my trade starts running and I want to take some profit. I want to lock in some profit. So what I'll usually do is I'll just hit the half button, right? So it'll have 1,000 shares highlighted, hit a half button, and it'll automatically have whatever position size I have in my order automatically, right? So it's not about calculating quickly or having to do the math. It's about simplicity and being able to quickly get my order in, right? Because every second, even if I can do math really quick in my head, right? I still got to calculate and then I've got to click, right? It's easier to click a button and be able to take the most profits I can. So with ThinkorSwim, they don't have that ability, right? Like they don't have the ability for you to click a button and say, I'm going to have my position and sell off half at this market price and then raise my stop, etc., etc. So there's multiple things that you can do, right? First off, I want to show you a couple quick things that you can do to make trading an active trader a little bit easier. So typically, this is what active trader. So let's say that we don't have a position right now, and let's say that I placed an order for 1,000 shares at 579, right? So I'd go up here, 579, and this would typically be like if you were just going to do a single transaction, you would actually, if you're going to do a limit order, which you would have to do an after hours, right? So you'd have to change your time in force to after hours, which I don't even think I have time in force up here, but let's go ahead and click and add that. If anytime you want to add something to your active trader, all you got to do is click the little gear icon, and now see we have our time in force, right? So again, if we wanted to purchase or we wanted to put a bid in for 1,000 shares and after hours, we'd have to change this to extended or good to cancel to extended. Again, for the purposes of this, we would just do extended. Now, since I am on my live account, I don't want to do this because I don't want to buy any more shares. Like I'm happy at my position. I'm happy with my progress on this. So again, the point I'm trying to make is that what we have to do in order to place our order, we would have to come in here. Well, now we're at 181, so we would have to decide where we want to put our bid in. And great, we get a fill, right? Now the problem is that then you'd have to go and then you'd have to decide, which you already should have decided if you're doing risk size positioning, where your stop loss is going to be. And then you go in here, make sure that your position size is in the correct window, and then place your stop loss, right? Which is great. To me, that's still even a little bit too much. It's much better than what I used to do before, right? Where I used to bring up that little trade window, and it just was a pain in the ass to have to put this in and put this in and click this button and click this menu. I was clicking 7 times before I got the damn trade in, and by the time I got the trade in, I had either missed my move or it had gone back and now all of a sudden I'm playing from behind, right? So this was a nice step up. However, I'm the kind of person that likes to put my stop in immediately. And even this got to be monotonous for me, right? So this is what I ended up doing with this is I said, hey, look, you know what? Um, let's say that I'm going to um, based off of my pattern, right? I'm going to put a 10-cent stop loss, right? And now typically, I would uncheck the target. And again, this was a pain in the ass for me too because I like to scale out. I teach my students that they should scale out of their trades, right? So once you get 2 to 1 or better on your rewards to risk ratio, I always tell them take half off and then move your stop to the buy price. So then you're actually in essentially a free trade, right? So even if you get stopped out that point, you still taking profits on half of your position size, right? And then of course, if it runs, you scale out another quarter. Well, you scale out another half of a half, which would still leave you a quarter. So, and then you keep a quarter of your shares for lotto, right? Um, and again, for me, that's easy done, right? Because I have the software that lets me. But for those using ThinkorSwim, it's a pain in the ass, right? It really is. It's a pain in the ass because in order to sell a quarter, you've got to calculate, right? So even though so let's say that you've already sold out half, right? Well, now you already know that 500 divided by 2, right, divided by a half is 250, right? You still got to go in here and you still got to get 250, type that in, and then you've got to hit your sell mark. By that point, maybe you're in this candle, maybe it's coming back, right? So now you've just lost a couple extra bucks profit. And right now, with the market being the way that it has been over the past several weeks, we want to make sure that we're taking as much profit as we can. We don't want to be greedy, but we want to take as much profit as we can. So over the weekend, I was like, wow, this is great and all, but I'm getting tired of having to type in all this shit, right? Forgive me for cursing here. So I'm like, there's got to be a better way, right? Like it's just a shame I can't like make buttons, right? Well, you can, but here's what I can do, right? So let's say that I routinely, this is how I like to do. Maybe I'm going to take all my profits at one time, right? So remember, I think we had 1,000 shares. We're going to buy 1,000 shares of this with a 10-cent stop loss, right? If I buy 1,000 shares and I have a 10-cent stop loss, how much am I risking? $100, right? $100. Actually, here I'll show you my chart again. I've done this multiple times in the past here. Let me pull up my stop loss, right? So again, let me take this and pull the window up here. So again, if I'm willing to risk $100 on the trade, right? $100 on the trade, and I got a stop loss of 10 cents, I can purchase 1,000 shares. So worst case, if the trade goes south, I lose $100. I'm okay with that, right? So I got 1,000 shares. Now that's cool, right? So I can go ahead and if let's just say we're during market day, right? So we have our day for make sure our day is for time and force, and we could hit buy market, and then it would basically here. I don't want to. Well, it's not going to let me because we're after hours. Anyways, but if I was to place this order, I would purchase 1,000 shares at market order and then place my stop loss 10 cents below, right? Awesome. But guess what? Now, what if I want to get into another trade, right? And this one has a 50-cent stop loss. The more clicks I have to do, right? Because I'm already gonna have to most likely click and change my quantity, right? But again, the less clicks I have to do, right? So let's say I got to click, change this number, click, change this number, and then I've got to hit a button here. So that's 3 clicks I'm going to have to make, right? 3 clicks with also keystrokes. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find ways to minimize the keystrokes and the clicks I have to do. So here's what I can do, right? I can do one of two things, right? So maybe I won't get rid of any clicks, but maybe I can get rid of some keystrokes, right? Even if I can get rid of a couple keystrokes, that's good. So what you can do, right? Let's say that I want to save this as a preset, right? So it will pop up down here underneath. So this is our regular order. Like these are the order templates that you're given from ThinkorSwim, but we can create our own order templates, right? Our own order templates with our own stop losses, our own defined stop losses, and and our defined targets. Now we can see ThinkorSwim. I don't really understand the reasoning behind their target with the three brackets, right? Like first off, I understand the target with three brackets. I don't understand their stop loss reasoning, right? So if I had 1,000 shares, right, and this is all done equally, so let's just say that we bought 999 shares, right? You can see everything should be all equal. There we go. Everything's all equal, so it's going to do it in thirds. If you do the target with two brackets, it's going to do it equally in half, right? So again, I don't understand why they would have you would have your first target as $1, and your second one would be a $2 stop loss, right? Yeah, like again, it's kind of pretty much. I don't know. I don't like it, right? So here's what I want to do. I want to create all my stop losses equally. So let's say that I want to create a template that's going to be used for a 10-cent stop loss. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to change all these to 10 cents, right? So now when I place an order for 999 shares, that stop loss is going to be 10 cents for each one, right? So even if the first target gets met and I have 666 shares left, those 666 shares are still going to be 10 cents from the market price fill, right? So again, this is what's awesome about this, right? Let me show you one quick little thing here. What's nice to know that I didn't know before was you could go over here and click your gear icon, and you can add P&L open to your active trader window, right? To the spreadsheet window. And here's what's really cool about it. It gives you an idea, right? Like you can already see what your position size sold at a certain price will give you. And so now, again, for those of you that have used active trader, it's a pain in the ass to click and drag and click and drag and click and drag. Like, see, look how far I got to keep dragging. I got to keep dragging for, to get to my, I mean, I've got 4 of them above it, right there you go. So now look, if I wanted to change this, like I got to click and drag. But what if I want to go a buck, right? Like this only goes from like 1550 to 1587. So I got to scroll again, and then I got to make sure it's saved on the screen. Then I can, yeah, it won't let you scroll up past there, right? So look, it's not letting me scroll up past there. It's only letting me scroll up to the top, which is 1621, right? So that's a pain in the ass. So again, you can hit this little zoom out button, right? And now all of a sudden, see your increments change, they get bigger, right? So now I can clearly see where all my definitions are. So I mean, look, if JNUG, if JNUG was, let's say I'm not selling at these levels, right? Let's just say that I sell out, I take my entire position size and I sell out. If JNUG gets to 2785, I'm going to make $248,400 on this trade, provided I get fills, right? For I'm able to sell at that point. How awesome is this, right? And the same thing, right? You can go back down further, right? You can go down further and say, okay, look, what? Let's go back to the center view. So we can go to the center view. We can scroll down, and we can also see, hey, look, if the price gets to a certain point, this is what I'm going to be losing. So this is honestly, this is pretty damn ingenious, right? This is kind of what TC2000 does, but they do it a different way. I love the way that they do it here on ThinkorSwim because it makes it easier to kind of gauge where your potential profits could be, right? Like, if you want to make sure that you're pulling $1,000 on the trade, well, guess what? Now all of a sudden you can set your sell price where you want, right? Like that's nice, right? It's not really how I would like to risk to manage my risk or my targets, but for some people this might be awesome, right? So I mean, think about that. That's pretty damn cool, right? And the more I scroll up, did I just say the whore? The more I screw up, I scroll. Wow, there you go. Freudian slip there, right? The whore I screw up. No, the more I scroll up, right? The higher I can see my thing. But again, this takes forever to get to right now to my defined target areas, right? So I can just scroll out and I can quickly see this. Now, what if JNUG starts running, right? Or what if it starts going back and I'm like, you know what? I'm too aggressive on my targets. Well, there you go. Look, I can move it down. I can take 1,000 here. I can take 1,000 there. Now, these were set for a reason. They were based off of my research and my premonition that I hope comes true, right? So again, I can move this. So this is what makes this awesome, right? But again, I want to show you something really cool. So we got we let's just say that we want to um, let's just keep it simple. Let's say that we're looking for our first target of 50 cents, our second target of $1, right? Well, we're looking for a second target of $1. Oops, we just changed our stop loss. So it's got to be very careful. And again, this is why I recommend that if you do this, I recommend that you do this on your practice account first or on your paper trading account, just so if you happen to screw something up in your things, right? And maybe you don't double check like I should. But let's say that this is how I want this order to be, right? I want whatever my position is going to be. I want it to be filled, right? I want my stop loss for all of my position to be set at 10 cents. And at the first 50 cents, I want to sell a third. At when it gets to $1, I want to sell another third. If it gets to 2, I want to sell another third, right? Now, here's the cool thing is you go over here and you click this little file icon off to the right hand side. You can give this a name, right? So let's just call this stop loss example 10 cent. And we'll call it 3 targets, right? Then you go ahead. Up, name's too long. So let's see. Here you go. So we give it stop loss example 10 cent, 3 targets. So now, anytime, let's say that we are under whatever, right? We come over here and we're like, you know what? I want to do the stop loss example, 3 targets. So click that. All you got to do, so you got one click, right? Put in your position based off of the risk size positioning chart that like I use, right? So you got one click, put in one click and then another, put in your position, and then click up here, and then that's it. Like you don't have to do anything. You like honestly, you don't even have to manage the trade. Like you can just let the trade run. If you get stopped out, you get stopped out. If it hits your targets, hit your targets. That's kind of cool, right? Like this takes out of the knowing how to hit your exits or knowing how to time your exits, right? Like again, you're taking a little bit of the control away from yourself, but you're also automating your trade. So if you're somebody who likes to be in multiple trades, which I don't really recommend, I recommend managing the actual trades that you're in. But for somebody who maybe is in a trade and you're like, look, I can't sit around all day here. Maybe I've got to go to the doctor. Maybe I got to go pick up kid. Maybe I just don't feel well, but I don't want to miss out on the trading day. So you get your trades you put your trades in there, right? They get filled, and if it meets your targets, it's going to sell, right? Worst case, um, you're only going to, if you get stopped out, you're going to get stopped out either here, here, or here, right? So either way, the most you're going to lose is whatever you're willing to risk to begin with, right? Most likely, if your first target gets hit, the worst you're going to lose would be $66, right? And that's counting zero per profit up there, right? Remember, if we're risking $100 on this trade. So, but again, I just thought it was really, really cool, right? And again, this is a big thing here for me because I hate having to break out a calculator and go, oh, okay, well, if it runs $6.72, how much am I going to make if I have 772 shares? Like, I ain't got time for that shit. Like, I just want to be able to know, am I going to be in the money, right? Am I going to be happy? Or what. So, but again, hopefully you picked up some cool little tips from here. Hopefully this will help you. What I recommend doing, if you don't even want to do the targets, you just want to make sure that your stop losses are set. You could go here, right? You can, like I said, untick the target, right? And you could just do this. You could just make a quick and simple stop loss for every trade that you take, right? So you can call this 5 cent stop loss, right? So we'll overwrite the other one that we have. So we'll go ahead and we'll change this to 10 cent stop loss, right? You can take this 10 cent stop loss. Save that. And again, it's just real simple. So if you ever decide, hey, look, I want to do 5 cent stop loss on my position size, 10 cent stop loss, right? And this is not even without targets, right? You don't even have to. Then you can decide, hey, look, if I get to a point where I want to sell out, then you can either go ahead and flatten it, right? You can flatten your and get out of the entire position at that point. Awesome, right? Or again, you might be a fan of trailing stops, right? You might want to trail your stops, so you can change that. Now you can create another one, 10 cent trailing stop. So it's customizable, and honestly, I'll have to admit, this is a lot more powerful than I gave it credit for a year ago, right? Um, is it enough to make me want to leave what I'm using now? No. But for somebody who don't want to spend 20, 25 bucks, 40 bucks a month on software, or in some cases like, Dash Trader Pro, which could be upwards of 150, $200 a month, this isn't bad. It's free and it's a little bit better, right? Like, that's kind of cool. And look at this, man. The JNUG is running after hours. I love this, man. Like, listen, I'm not selling this. I'm not selling any until it gets to 1095, right? 1095, 10,000 shares, baby. I'm gonna sell 1,000 at 1095. Like, that's gonna be 8 grand. It's gonna be 8 grand when I sell off it. And I think at some point it's going to run back. So again, it's not a recommendation. It's just what I'm doing. So don't copy my trades, because what I'm doing works for me on my patterns. So unless you have that knowledge or that training, you may not want to try to mimic anything that I do. But again, hopefully this helped you out. Hopefully this made a lot of sense. Hopefully you learn some really new cool things, right? Again, like, how awesome is this? Like, I can just, you know, anytime I want to go back to the center and be like, oh, I want to adjust it real quick. Maybe I want to kind of just check and see what I could potentially make. Like, what if my position I have right now, what if JNUG got back to the high of 105.24, right? 105.24. Listen, if JNUG gets back there, obviously I'm not going to hold it all, but if I was able to hold my entire position this entire way, that's $1 million trade, baby. Million freaking dollars. All right, guys. Hope this was informative. Again, try this on your simulated paper trading account before you try this on your live account, so you make sure that you have everything set up the way that you like. Then you go into your live account and then make your actual order templates, right? And share with me. Go ahead and leave in the comments if you try this on your simulated account. Let me know. Did it help you? Did it hurt you? Was it counterintuitive? Were you able to take a trade and then basically not even have to manage it, just be able to let it do its thing? And if you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. If you hit your targets, you're awesome. So again, just kind of, and if you have a lot of extensive understanding of thinkorswim and there's ways to improve what we're doing here, then please, by all means, share with me. Hit the likes up on this video, please, and subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And thank you, and have a great day.